Welcome to our deep dive on grit. I gotta say, this book you shared, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth, really got me thinking.
It's a fascinating read.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially the whole thing about Duckworth winning a MacArthur Genius Grant after, being told she wasn't a genius as a kid. She makes a pretty compelling case that success isn't just about talent.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like what sets the high achievers apart?
Hmm.
The folks who just seem to crush it in whatever they do. Duckworth actually started her research at West Point.
West Point, wow.
Yeah, studying cadets during Beast Barracks. They already had this system, the whole candidate score, to try and predict success. Test scores, grades, fitness, the whole 9 yards. But Duckworth's research, it kind of threw a wrench in things.
Okay, so that's where grit comes in, right? But it's one thing to say grit matters, it's another to actually define it. What exactly is grit? What makes it so special?
Right, so Duckworth, she defines grit as passion and perseverance for long-term goals. It's not just about working hard, it's about having that sustained passion and drive over time. Like talent and intelligence. Sure, they're important, but they're just the starting point. It's grit that fuels that long, often challenging journey toward actually achieving those goals. Think of it this way. Talent and intelligence are the raw materials. Grit is the fuel that keeps the engine running.
Okay, I get it. It's about having that fire in your belly that keeps you going when things get tough. But how does that actually play out in the real world? I know Duckworth's book has tons of examples, from salespeople to spelling bee champs.
Runs
Right.
tons. Take salespeople, for example. Rejections practically in their job description. Duckworth found that the grittier salespeople were way more likely to stick with it. Push past those no's and just keep going. They don't let setbacks define them.
That makes sense, I guess, in sales, resilience is everything. But what about something like the National Spelling Bee? How does grit fit into a competition where, honestly, some kids just seem to have a natural knack for words?
It's a great question. Because it challenges this whole idea of natural talent. What Duckworth found is that grittier spellers, they just put in the work. They dedicated more time to studying, they competed in more bees, they embraced the process of getting better, even if it meant stumbling along the way.
So even in something like spelling, where you might think it's all about innate ability, effort, and perseverance, still make a huge difference. It's fascinating. But it does make you wonder, why are we so quick to attribute success to natural talent? It's like we're almost wired to overlook the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it.
You've hit the nail on the head. Duckworth calls this the naturalness bias. We often idolize people who make it look effortless, the naturals. Like we almost prefer to believe in innate genius rather than acknowledge the power of consistent, dedicated effort.
It's almost like we're more comfortable thinking someone was just born a genius than accepting that they clawed their way to greatness through sheer willpower and determination. But if that's true, then how does that impact our own view of success, even our willingness to push ourselves?
It can be a real trap. This bias, it can lead us to downplay the role of hard work in our own lives.
Hmm.
If we buy into the myth that success is mostly about talent, then we're less likely to embrace challenges, to really dig in and persevere when things get tough.
So it's not just about how we see others, it's about how we see ourselves and what we believe we're capable of. Do you have any real world examples of how this bias plays out?
Oh, definitely. Think about Olympic swimmer Mark Spitz. His accomplishments are insane, right? Often attributed to raw talent. But what people forget is the years of relentless training, countless hours in the pool, pushing his limits day after day.
We see the gold medals, the effortless grace in the water, but we miss the years of grinding that went into building that success.
Precisely. Another example is the way companies, like McKinsey, hire consultants. They prioritize brightness, this perceived intellectual horsepower.
Mhm.
But that can sometimes come at the expense of experience and, skills honed through hard work.
So even in the professional world, this bias can lead to flawed judgments and missed opportunities. It makes you think how many incredibly talented people get overlooked because they don't fit this narrow definition of natural brilliance.
It's a sobering thought, for sure. It challenges us to look beyond those first impressions and really appreciate the value of hard work, dedication, and the willingness to keep learning and growing.
This is really making me rethink my own assumptions about talent and success. But okay, if we accept that grit is this key ingredient, can we actually develop it? Or are we kind of stuck with whatever level we're born with?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And thankfully, Duckworth's research suggests that grit can be cultivated. She breaks it down into two main components: passion and perseverance. And remember her equation. Talent times effort equals skill, And then skill times effort equals achievement.
So effort acts as a multiplier, amplifying both our skills and our achievements. I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but can we unpack those components of grit a bit more? What does it really mean to cultivate passion and perseverance?
Sure. Passion, it's not just fleeting excitement. It's about having this enduring interest in something, a deep commitment to continuous improvement in that area. And perseverance, that's the daily discipline. It's practicing, pushing through setbacks, and striving to get better day after day.
So it's about showing up even when the initial excitement fades, choosing to embrace that long, often challenging journey of mastery. I know Duckworth illustrates this with some pretty amazing stories,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's Warren McKenzie, this incredible potter who believed that the first 10,000 pots are the hardest. Talk about a commitment to mastery. And then there's John Irving, the famous novelist. He actually struggled in school, but overcame his writing challenges through relentless rewriting, through a sheer refusal to give up on his craft.
Those are incredible stories. It's a good reminder that even the most successful people, they faced obstacles and setbacks, but it was their grit, that unwavering dedication that allowed them to overcome those challenges and reach their goals. But what about the passion piece? How do we even figure out what we're truly passionate about? Is it something we stumble upon, or can it be cultivated?
That's where we got to ditch this myth of the instant calling. This idea that we just magically find our one true passion fully formed, it's just not realistic. And frankly, it can be pretty discouraging.
So no lightning bolts of inspiration, no sudden epiphanies that reveal our destiny.
Not usually, no. Passion, it's something that develops over time. It's a journey, really, of discovery, development, and deepening. And it often starts with a willingness to explore, to try new things, and see what sparks our curiosity.
So it's more like solving a crossword puzzle, starting with the clues you're most confident about and then gradually filling in the blanks as you go.
Exactly. And once we start exploring, we need to shift into deliberate practice. This means pushing beyond our comfort zone, focusing on our weaknesses, and intentionally working towards improvement. It's not just about doing what we enjoy, it's about challenging ourselves to get better.
That sounds a lot like what we were talking about with the whole naturalness bias. It's about recognizing that mastery requires consistent effort and deliberate practice, no matter what your natural abilities are.
You're connecting the dots beautifully. And then the final piece of the puzzle, the thing that truly ignites our passion and fuels our perseverance, is finding purpose.
Purpose. So it's not just about loving what we do, but also about connecting our passions to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Purpose. It's about finding a way to contribute, to make a difference in the world. It adds this layer of meaning and motivation that fuels long-term commitment. It's about finding that sweet spot where our interests align with a sense of making a positive impact.
So it's about finding that intersection of passion, purpose, and perseverance, aligning our individual pursuits with a larger goal, a desire to contribute to something beyond ourselves.
Precisely. And when we find that alignment, it unlocks incredible motivation and resilience. It becomes the fuel that drives us forward, even when we face challenges and setbacks.
As we're talking about all this internal stuff like passion and purpose, it makes me think about something else Duckworth mentions, mindset, specifically Carol Dweck's work on, fixed versus growth mindset. How does that fit into all of this?
Oh, it's huge. Dweck's research is so relevant to developing grit. People with a fixed mindset, they believe intelligence and talent are set in stone. You're either born with it or you're not. Growth mindset folks, on the other hand, they believe those abilities can be developed through effort and learning.
So someone with a growth mindset is more likely to embrace challenges, to see setbacks as opportunities for growth rather than just giving up.
Exactly. And that's crucial for grit. When you believe you can improve, you're way more likely to persevere when things get tough. You don't just throw in the towel because, you hit a roadblock. Failure becomes a temporary setback, not a reflection of your limitations.
It reminds me of that story Duckworth tells about Kayvon, the student who thrived academically despite facing some incredibly tough personal challenges.
Kayvon's story is amazing. It's a perfect example of growth mindset in action. He didn't let his circumstances define him. His belief in his ability to learn and grow, that's what fueled his success. It's a powerful reminder that our mindset really can shape our reality.
It's so inspiring, but it also makes me wonder, can we really develop grit on our own, just through sheer willpower and mindset shifts, or does it require some level of external support?
It's a great question. While individual effort is super important, Duckworth also emphasizes the importance of a supportive and challenging environment. She uses this analogy of a garden. You need the right soil, sunlight, and water for plants to thrive, right? We need that same kind of nurturing environment to cultivate grit.
So what are the key elements, like the essential nutrients for a grit-friendly environment?
Duckworth breaks it down into three main factors: wise parenting, mentorship, and a culture of grit.
Okay, let's unpack those, starting with wise parenting. What does that actually look like, especially when it comes to like encouraging grit in kids?
Wise parenting. It's not about being a drill sergeant. It's about finding that balance between warmth and high expectations.
Yeah.
It's about providing support and encouragement while also pushing kids to step outside their comfort zones, to embrace challenges, and to persevere through difficulties. It's about helping them see those tough moments as opportunities for growth, not as threats to their self-worth.
So it's not about pushing kids relentlessly, but about creating an environment where they feel safe to explore, to take risks, and to learn from their mistakes.
Exactly. It's about nurturing a growth mindset where kids understand that effort and perseverance are just as important as talent, if not more so.
That ties back to what we were discussing earlier with the naturalness bias. It seems like a big part of wise parenting is helping kids move beyond that fixed mindset and really embrace the power of hard work and dedication.
You got it. And this leads us nicely into the second factor: mentorship. Having someone who believes in you and challenges you to grow can make a world of difference.
I'm thinking of teachers, coaches, even family friends who've played that role in my life. Those people who pushed me to try new things, step outside my comfort zone, and offered guidance when I inevitably stumbled.
Exactly.
Great.
A good mentor provides not just encouragement, but also like constructive feedback. They help us identify areas for improvement and strategize ways to overcome obstacles. They're like a sounding board, a source of inspiration, a guide on our path to mastery.
It's like having a personal cheerleader who's also an expert in your chosen field. Someone who celebrates your wins, but also helps you learn from your losses and keep pushing forward.
Precisely. And then we have the third factor: a culture of grit.
So this is about the larger environment we're in, our schools, workplaces, communities, those kinds of things.
You got it. A culture of grit normalizes hard work. You know,
Mhm.
it celebrates improvement and values perseverance over just innate talent. It creates a space where people feel supported and encouraged to do their best, knowing that effort and dedication are recognized.
It's interesting to think about how these different levels of influence, from individual mindset to parenting to larger cultural norms, all contribute to shaping our capacity for grit. Duckworth actually gives a concrete example of how to cultivate grit within a family. Her hard thing rule. Can you remind us what that is?
Oh yeah, the hard thing rule. It's a strategy Duckworth uses with her own family. The basic idea is that everyone has to commit to a hard thing, something that requires consistent effort and dedication over time.
So it's not about forcing kids into activities they hate, but encouraging them to choose something challenging that helps them develop their grit muscles.
Right. There are two important elements to an effective hard thing. First, there should be an adult involved who can offer guidance and support. Think of it like having a coach who helps navigate challenges and celebrates wins along the way.
Okay, that makes sense. Having that external support and accountability. What's the second piece?
The second piece is that the activity should be designed to cultivate interest, practice, purpose, and hope. It's got to be challenging enough to foster growth, but also engaging and enjoyable enough to keep them motivated.
So, like learning a musical instrument, joining a sports team, mastering a new language, maybe even learning to code. It's about finding things that pique a child's curiosity and then giving them the structure and support to persevere, to help them experience those little wins along the way.
You nailed it. Duckworth calls these playing fields of grit. They provide a perfect context to develop resilience, perseverance, and passion.
Yeah.
It's about reframing challenges, seeing them as opportunities for growth and learning, not just obstacles to avoid.
Playing fields of grit. I love that. It really captures the idea that these opportunities to develop grit are all around us in the classroom, on the sports field, and creative pursuits everywhere.
Absolutely. And it's not just limited to childhood, right?
Mhm.
These principles can be applied throughout our lives, helping us to embrace new challenges and cultivate a grittier approach to, well, pretty much everything.
So we've talked about individual mindset, the importance of wise parenting and mentorship. Are there examples of organizations that have successfully built this culture of grit on a larger scale?
Tons of great examples. Duckworth highlights Anson Dorrance, the coach of the UNC Tar Heels women's soccer team. He's led his team to unprecedented success, and he attributes a lot of that to their culture of grit.
I've heard of him. His teams are known for their incredible work ethic and, their unwavering pursuit of excellence.
Right. Dorrance doesn't just recruit talented players, he actively cultivates grit in his team through specific practices, a constant emphasis on effort and improvement. He understands that talent alone doesn't cut it. It's the combination of talent and grit that produces extraordinary results.
So it's about creating an environment where hard work and dedication are celebrated and challenges are seen as opportunities to grow, not like threats to be avoided.
Exactly. Another great example is Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seattle Seahawks. He's known for building a super positive and competitive team culture where grit is a core value.
I can see how that approach would lead to success on and off the field. It seems like a common thread in these successful organizations is this clear message that effort and perseverance are just as important as natural ability.
You're absolutely right. These organizations don't just talk about grit, they live it. They cultivate it through their actions, their communication, the entire environment they create.
It's a powerful lesson for anyone looking to build a successful team or organization, whether it's a sports team, a company, or even a family. Understanding the principles of grit and intentionally fostering those values can make a huge difference.
Couldn't agree more. It's about empowering individuals to reach their full potential and, to achieve incredible things.
This has been such an insightful look into how our environment can influence our grit development. It's clear that while individual effort is essential, the environments we create play a huge role in shaping our capacity for passion, perseverance, and resilience. Wow, it's incredible how much our environment shapes our ability to tap into that grit. But as we wrap up our deep dive into Duckworth's book, I'm curious, anything else that really jumped out at you? Anything that surprised you or made you rethink your own approach to all this?
One thing that really caught me off guard was Duckworth's research on grit and happiness. It seems like they're actually pretty strongly connected, which at first didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you'd think all that striving and pushing towards big goals would lead to more stress, maybe even burnout. Not exactly a recipe for happiness, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But her research shows that people who score high on the grit scale, they tend to report higher levels of life satisfaction and overall well-being.
So grittier people are actually happier. Why do you think that is?
I think a big part of it is this sense of purpose and mastery. When we're really engaged in pursuing goals that we care about and we start to see progress, it creates this deep sense of fulfillment, a satisfaction that goes beyond just fleeting happiness. Even when things get tough, the feeling of accomplishment and growth, it outweighs the challenges.
So it's not about chasing happiness directly, but more about pursuing a path that aligns with what we value and what we're interested in, and trusting that happiness will kind of show up along the way.
Exactly. It's about hitting that sweet spot where passion, purpose, and perseverance all come together. And when we do, that's where we find real meaning and fulfillment, which are key ingredients for a happy life.
It's a good reminder that true happiness isn't always about comfort and ease. Sometimes it's about embracing the challenges, pushing ourselves to grow, and becoming more resilient, more capable versions of ourselves.
That's a really important takeaway from Duckworth's work.
Yeah.
I think grit isn't just about achieving success in the traditional sense. It's about developing a mindset and an approach to life that leads to both achievement and personal fulfillment. Embracing the journey, knowing that the struggles and setbacks, they're all part of what shapes us.
Well said. This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about. I'm feeling inspired to identify those areas in my own life where I want to amp up my grit and also to create more supportive environments for, the people around me.
That's awesome. Remember, grit is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Start by thinking about what you're truly passionate about, what lights you up. Set some challenging but meaningful goals that align with those passions. And most importantly, embrace the journey. Know that setbacks are going to happen, but they don't have to define you.
And for everyone listening out there, we hope this deep dive into Angela Duckworth's grit has given you some new insights and hopefully inspired you to explore your own potential for passion, perseverance, and resilience. Keep in mind, grit isn't some fixed trait. It's something we can all cultivate and strengthen. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing those grit muscles.